Hey guys, today we are coming to you live in beautiful Las Vegas from the Contractor Connection Expo 2016. We're here with John Otero from Legend Brands, and really excited to be talking about some of the things that he's an expert in. And for those of you, our three people that watch that don't know you, no, we have more than three that watch, but the three that watch that don't know you, if you wouldn't mind, share a little bit about your background in the industry.
So I'm with Legend Brands, been in the industry about 26 years.
Rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Rookie.
So there's basically three segments in our industry, right? End user,
Right.
Distribution, and manufacturing. So I've done all three. So I was with mostly with Coit Services. They're kind of East Coast or West Coast franchise. Well, they're actually all over the country. So I was with them for about 10 years. Then I was
You were selling?
I was. I moved up from
service
carpet
technician?
cleaning, sales, general manager.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so we moved up the ranks with that. Great franchise. Then I was with Interlink or Ramsco
I remember. That's where I met you.
for about 12, 13 years.
Right.
And then Legend Brands. Legend Brands is, underneath Legend Brands is Dry-Ease, ChemSpec, Microban, Sapphire, Odorex, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so more of taking care of the restoration products. So the last two and a half years been with that. So yeah, all three segments of the restoration industry,
Yeah.
which has given me a great overview
Totally.
of the cleaning and restoration industry.
And I think that's why we wanted to interview you here while we were here at Contractor Connection. Let's talk about what you've seen in the last couple of years that is really trending, or some of the trends that have changed the industry recently. What can you share for our viewers on
Sure.
what they can pinpoint on?
So at the Contractors Connection, there's a lot of software companies regarding documentation, right? Next Gear Solutions, Dash,
Got it.
Client Runner, so on and so forth. And the reason is there's a lot of inconsistency within the restoration industry on documentation. Okay. So I used to do CE classes for adjusters around the country. And so it's unique to talk to a room full of adjusters talking about the restoration industry when what we hear is what we talk about the adjusters. So it's a different feel.
Now, when you say C classes and documentation, you're talking about specifically emergency services.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you go on a mitigation job,
Right.
what we're seeing is a lot of inconsistencies regarding documentation that we're providing for the insurance companies or the adjusters.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
So let me give you an example. One scenario that I ran into, which kind of really opened my eyes. Went to a CE class at a restoration company in Phoenix.
Okay.
And there's a room full of adjusters. And what was unique about it is he was actually flooding a room. He had the adjusters with a garden hose wetting down the ceilings and drywall and furniture and
Interactive, kind of fun.
Absolutely.
Illegal.
right. So he was just showing what could happen, right?
Right.
So after the class, there's a couple adjusters asked questions. Could we look at some invoices? And so it was unique because there was no. It can really shock me. There was no readings of the relative humidity or moisture content or grains, GPP.
Okay, so really quick to clarify, these adjusters wanted you to review bills from other restoration companies.
From actual jobs.
Actual jobs.
I gotcha. And
So
they wanted your input to see, does this make sense?
Yeah, so they wanted the instructor, myself, to look at it. So we looked at
okay.
it. And as I looked at it, there was very little documentation. So I asked the adjusters, okay, so with this little of documentation, what would happen? How would you pay that?
Right.
And they said we would only pay for 3 days of drying. And that's it. Even though it took maybe 5 or 6 days or whatever it was, we're only paying for 3 based on very little documentation. And then they kept coming in with other ones. And I was really surprised.
And that surprises me too, John, because, in our industry, I think especially in California, we feel like everyone over documents everything. I know we do. And we feel like we have to. Like every single day, we have emails going out on exactly what's being done, all the readings. But you're saying that there are a lot of companies that are not doing that.
Absolutely. I know a couple other consultants that work for insurance companies, and I've seen the invoices, and I'm just baffled because you have to imagine, why would, let me give you an example. If I took my car to a mechanic, right? And I said, just it's not starting right, it's making some noise when I start it. Can you take a look at it? 2 days later, he calls me up and says, John, car's all done, it's ready, rock and roll. And there's very little information on the invoice. How am I going to pay you? What was wrong? What parts did you replace? How much labor? What, can you actually show me? Right?
Give me a breakdown.
Yeah, and that's what the adjusters want, and that's the reason why. Okay, we get phone calls from adjusters because we're not giving enough documentation. So if we don't want the adjusters to call us, then we have to provide more documentation. Why did you put the air scrubber in, right? Why are you using heat? So on and so forth. Give them a reason why, right?
Got it.
For example, there is, with Dry Ease, on our website, we actually have a guide to air scrubbing. It's a 23-page scientific documentation of why you should use air scrubbers, right? So what we recommend is actually provide a copy of that documentation when you use air scrubbers, because then when they go through the line item and they see the air scrubber, then they see a note to see the guide of why we use the air scrubber and a guide to air scrubbing. There's scientific reasons why we're using it, right? So now I'm not going to get a phone call on that, or maybe I'll have less pushback on that.
What a great resource. And for you viewers, at the end of this video, you're going to be able to know how to get in touch with John and his company and see what resources they actually provide. So that way you too can get access to these things. I think that's very beneficial.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that document in the show notes if you guys are okay. Is it hosted free on your website?
Yeah, it is absolutely free.
Yeah, so we'll definitely put that in. I think what strikes me as so tragic about this is, in a lot of cases, that 5 or 6 day dry down is probably justified, but there's no documents to support it. Just like your mechanic may be justified in charging you $3,000, but he's got to at least be able to tell you what he did and why he did it.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, if he submits that for approval, what do you think the adjuster supervisor is going to do? Now he's going to ask that adjuster, well, why are you paying for this? Why are you paying for that? So he already knows that. So if it's not in the document, now I'm going to call you and say, why did you do that? Right? How come it took you 5 days?
Right.
There's no readings. The readings don't seem right. So it's very important. That's why a lot of insurance companies want to use franchises, right?
Good point. I was just thinking that, and I think you're right. I think from the standpoint of documentation and being able to communicate with one franchise to say, this is how we want to see it, and then it gets consistent nationwide. I think that's the attraction from the carrier to these franchisees, because they will assist them how they need to see it to justify.
Yeah.
So I'd love to ask you, John, so the companies that are doing this right, that are really effective at providing accurate documentation, do you find, and I know this is kind of a leading question, that they are just doing a better job of training their technicians, or do they have better systems in place? How are they better? Like, why do they get the documents filled out every day, whereas ABC Restoration down the street doesn't seem to be able to handle that?
I think the toughest part within any company itself is training. We don't spend enough time training and education because we're so busy.
Right.
We come in, hey, we got another flood, so you know what? We'll push that training for tomorrow, and then another one comes in. That training has to be consistent, right? So if the guys know that on Tuesday at 7 a.m. we're going to get training for an hour on whatever it is, that's what they know. So don't be late because it's a requirement. But in addition, what happens too within the restoration industry, sometimes we have high turnover, right? So
Sure.
we just bring in a new guy, and you just follow what I do. And how do we know that that technician's not cutting corners? So we have to review the documentation as if I'm an adjuster, right? So your project manager has to look at it, and maybe you have certain requirements. Is there any notes? Is there readings? So on and so forth. So that's one of the reasons why insurance companies love franchises, because they work within a structured system and are trained within that system.
Got it. It reminds me of our friend Jeremy Reitz, right?
Yeah.
Reitz TV. He's created this program where I think it's an hour a week, or is it an hour a day, or what is it? An hour a week?
It's an hour a week, I believe.
An hour a week where they're training the water technician, and it's step by step. And I think that's for the companies that are not franchises. I think it's important to continue to educate the technicians when the managers are not able to.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think not only is that systematized training important, but I think also the follow through from a leader standpoint.
Yeah.
I know that even internally within our own restoration company, we've had certain technicians where they'll turn in their documents at the end of the day and it's missing a relative humidity rating, or it's missing, a GPP rating. They're missing something from their reports. And having a leader in place that's actually going to follow up with those people, say, hey, you missed this, and make sure that there's checks and balances to make sure all those documents get filled out is absolutely vital.
Right.
Yeah.
Dry's is one of the leaders in education, right? We teach on average 8,000 students a year throughout the country. We know that that's important. That's the reason why in our let's say for our dehumidifiers, let's say the 7000, the Revolution, why do you think we have the readings of the relative humidity and the temperature on the dehumidifier itself? So that you have that documentation. So instead of walking in a room and waiting for your meter to acclimate, that dehumidifier, it's already on there, right? So we just move on there. The Velo air mover has an hour meter and a variable speed. Why does an air mover have an hour meter? Because we know homeowners turn off equipment at night. Right.
Yeah.
So here's what was interesting. We were taught, as I was teaching a CE class, we asked them, how many adjusters do you think where the homeowners turn off equipment? Do you know that every adjuster basically said, we all know homeowners turn off equipment? So what they don't realize is when they turn off the equipment at 10 o'clock at night, put it on at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's 8 hours of downtime, right? Then how many hours does it take for that evaporation to process to catch up when they turned it off?
Yeah.
Just to catch up again. And you know what stinks? Go back to 3 days. Like, why'd you take longer than 3 days? Right? Well, because the owner is unplugging the equipment. What a bummer.
Well, if you think about it, 3 days, if they turn it off every night, that's an entire day worth of turn off. Not to mention the ramp up time to get dehumidification going.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where you need to have that documentation.
So I'd love to hear, what do you see, and I don't know if this is even a fair question to ask, do you see technology changing the future of dry downs? I'd love to see a piece of equipment that automatically reports in that RH or that, like over the internet. I mean, is this crazy? Is this sci-fi?
No, it's they got stuff going on right now.
You know what? It's out there already. There is remote monitoring where you can turn on and turn off equipment, and it'll send you the readings. Okay. However, the insurance companies, honestly, they don't want that because they want you to be at those jobs. They want you to go and monitor, because there might be a section where it's dried on the east wall, but the west wall is still saturated. So let's concentrate more air movement or more dehumidification on that.
Or pull equipment.
Yep. Right? So the technology's there, and it's been there for a while. Even Dry's had sold remote monitoring. But the insurance companies, they want people at the homes, at the job sites, and they want that daily documentation.
Got it. So, John, let's switch gears. We started talking about the trends. And first, you said it was documentation, the lack of, and that's why there's so many software companies out here today.
Yeah.
Right, to feed that niche or that need. In addition to that, you spoke and you touched on CE credits. On a disaster restoration company actually teaching classes to agents, adjusters,
Absolutely.
brokers on what types of CE credits do you see happening? Because I think this is a good marketing tool for the viewers to say, hey, look, this is another piece where you don't have to go out there and just deliver cookies. You can be a resource. Right?
Dropping the donuts off, those days are over.
Come on.
It's
Are you serious?
It's over, man. So as I used to do CE classes, think about this. As an owner, wouldn't you love to have a room full of adjusters, 30 adjusters talking at the one time, instead of driving to 30 adjusters and talking?
Totally.
They come to you, they see your facility, and because you're doing the class, you're the expert.
Amen. Love
right?
that.
So, and there's a little bit of a process. You got to go through, Department of Insurance. Every state is completely different. And you have to get approved at every state, right? So if you have various franchise or various locations, maybe you have one in California, Arizona, Nevada, you got to have every state approved. But in some of the classes, obviously water, fire, ethics,
Right.
But in the credits could be anywhere from 2, 3, 4 hours to 8 hours, where they're there all day. But then they can see your facilities.
Right.
How big is it? How professional? How clean is it? And they feel more comfortable
Of course.
giving their clients your name because they've been to your location. They see how professional. Everything's itemized, everything's tracked, so on and so forth. So if you're not doing CE, continuing education credit classes, you need to really look at that in your next marketing plan
Totally.
of either 2016 or 2017.
I think that not only do you benefit from all those things, that's an incredible opportunity for you, but also I found that once adjusters kind of see the way that things unfold in an actual job, they're more likely to approve things. I got pictures over the weekend from an adjuster that was redoing the wood floor in their homes, and he said, now I see why you guys charge so many labor hours for this type of work, because it's hard, difficult work. They thought we were just trying to stick it to them this whole time, and in reality they see, hey, this is actually really tough. There's things required in this installation that I had no idea until I actually got in there and did it myself.
Yeah.
And whether you're training them to do pack outs, you're training them about mitigation, I think that they're exposed to the challenges that we face on a daily basis and are more inclined to approve things in an estimate as well if they're more educated.
Yeah.
I like that approach. We with our own staff, we let them know, and the viewers, we let them know that being on a job site with an adjuster and being able to get 2 hours or 3 hours of FaceTime is so valuable. But to have a group of them for 4 hours or 8 hours, wow, that's gold.
Yeah.
Right.
All in one shot.
Absolutely.
Right,
I mean, not that I ever mind coming to Las Vegas, but you think about it, how much money we spend to come here just to be able to interact with a few of our clients and get some education.
Right.
And here you go. You don't even have to leave your office.
Right.
And you get a similar opportunity, if not a better one.
Sure. And it doesn't mean you don't have to do just adjusters or agents. What about real estate agents, right? They need CEs. It doesn't need to be an all day. It might be a 1 or 2 hour. But they have to, in each market where they need credits, they're kind of bored with some of the same people doing it, right? Because there's not that many not that many companies who do it. So now, if you're doing like a real estate, it's only an hour or two. Now you're providing a new presentation, new information, and they're going to be intrigued because it's something different.
Of course. And there are companies that are doing specific plumbing training to plumbers. Mm-hmm. And these plumbers are getting exposed to, the aspects of why it's important to test for asbestos before they cut things open, because they've been sued.
Yeah.
Right? And then some of these plumbers are actually getting marketing techniques on how they can market themselves better. And these are restoration companies providing these techniques to the plumbers, and it's like 50 plumbers in one room.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But,
and when you do those CE classes, then you can actually show them what kind of documentation you're going to provide, right?
Right.
You're going to see, this is what a restoration company should provide. This. Even the drawings, like DryPlan has a great platform that you can actually do the drawings on your iPad, right? So then you can actually show this is what's going to happen, or this is what a restoration company should provide, all the information. And again, we go back to you doing the class. You're the expert.
when you say DryPlan, what do you mean?
DryPlan is a
Through Dryease?
Dryease has a program where you can actually drag equipment that you're putting in the room as a diagram, and it's DryPlan. It's a great program. So you might want to check it out.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
It's interesting. And exports to PDF, or how does that work with respect to that?
Yeah, so it can correlate with Xactimate
Oh, it does?
as well. So it's a great It's another platform that you can use for
It
documentation.
sounds like Moisture Mapper almost.
Similar, a little bit easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have to pay for that?
There's a monthly fee. I
Come
think
on,
it's like
John, man.
$20.
Let's do for free, man. On this special episode. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. The great thing that I see is that the companies that you're involved with, I don't know if it's you bringing the innovation or if they're already innovative, but you happen to land in places that are open to innovate because the restoration industry continues to change. Constantly. I think there's so many contractors and restorers out there that I've known for 15 years, they're dying because they refuse to change.
Right.
And change is not necessarily evil. It's just necessary.
Right.
We have to grow and change. So I applaud you, man, for
Yeah,
being
thank
connected always with the right companies and making sure that you're leading out there with being able to grow.
Yeah, Legend Brands is always, they're always looking at improving. How can they help their customers? How can they help the industry
Perfect,
with new technology? So it's a great pleasure to work with them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I know we love your products. We use them at Allied, and
Yeah.
we find them fantastic as an end user as well as, applauding you for your professional connections as well.
Earlier, guys, we were telling some not horror stories, some war stories of the use of equipment and heat-assisted drying, which was awesome. Anyways, we were just bantering about some equipment things that were going on. But it's really important to make sure that you're connected. I mean, John Otero, I sought him out, probably about 5 years ago. And ever since, he's been such a great resource for me. And I would say to you, as a restorer, connect with John. John's so easy to get a hold of, and he's so available to always want to help the restorer. So please, we'll put his information on the screen. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to him and connect with John.
Yeah. So what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You know what? More? Just call me direct. I'd be glad. I always want to help. I get the joy of helping. I'm a big problem solver. I love doing that. But you could reach me on my cell direct, 602-620-8297. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So that's maybe that's your next segment is social media marketing, especially with LinkedIn, or maybe you've done one already. But that's another great way of getting some business as well.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Maybe if you want to leave like a 30-second tip, one tip that you found really helpful on LinkedIn, what would you say?
Anytime you run into an adjuster or just a potential client, after you've met with them, connect with them, and then what happens is you can actually see information about their company. Okay, so are they the owner? How long have they been in business? Are they a decision maker? Are they not a decision maker? So yeah, and what happens also is once you connect all that, then you can send out one message, and it will go to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 of those connections with you instead of emailing individually.
Right.
They just go all at once. Let's say if a storm's coming in, right? Maybe an earthquake or a tornado, whatever, that potentially could come in or whatever, you can send a reminder. And what is interesting is people actually respond to me faster through a LinkedIn message than an email.
Well, and you want to know why that is, in my opinion. I mean, how many email messages do you get a day?
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, even internally, we struggle with this sometimes with our own internal staff where they're emailing each other and they're saying, you're not replying to my email. Well, that's because I got 3,000 emails yesterday, but I I got 2 LinkedIn messages.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, because they saw it on their phone.
Exactly.
Right?
And they get a push notification on LinkedIn.
They get a push notification. Yeah. So, yeah, you have to, as you said, some companies are going out of business. Yeah. If they're going out of business, why? Are they not adjusting their marketing plan? The question really is, do you have a written marketing plan? And if you don't...
Do you have a vision? Do you have a mission?
Yeah.
All that, John.
Where are you going? If you don't have a marketing plan, where are you going, right? That's a roadmap to success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you guys having me on today. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Our pleasure.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
it. All right, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.